Today we're going to break down a pretty fascinating modern political manifesto. It's called the Declaration of the Meritocratic Republic of Canada. Now, this isn't some dusty historical text. It's a contemporary document that makes the case for a completely new form of government. Our goal here is simple, to walk you through what it says, how it structures its argument, and the vision it lays out.
So, we're going to follow the Declaration's own roadmap, which makes a lot of sense. First, we'll look at why its authors are calling for a whole new set of rules. Then, we'll dive into the unalienable rights they say they want to protect. After that, we'll get into their detailed list of grievances against the current government, see the new nation they're proposing, and finally, look at the pledge they make to secure its future. All right, so let's dive right in. The document kicks off with a really bold premise, that the fundamental systems running Canada aren't just a little flawed, they're dangerously out of date and need to be replaced, root and branch.
And this is a really key distinction they're making. You know, they aren't just calling for a new prime minister or some policy tweaks. They're arguing for a total teardown and rebuild of the state's entire machinery. They believe the system itself is the problem.
To really drive this point home, the document paints this picture of a massive mismatch. On one side, you have a political system that was born in the 19th century. They call it a product of the age of steam. And on the other side, well, you've got 21st century reality. Things like artificial intelligence, digital currency, and information warfare. The core argument is pretty straightforward. How can a system built for a pre-digital world possibly govern the one we live in today? Okay, so before they get into their big list of complaints, the authors do something really interesting. They lay down their philosophical foundation. It feels a lot like those historical declarations of independence, you know? They define the core rights they believe in, which basically sets the stage for everything they're about to say has been violated. And this definition, it's absolutely crucial to their whole argument. This is the yardstick they're using to measure the current government. By laying out these specific rights, life, liberty, property, and security for yourself and your family's future, they're essentially creating the moral and legal basis for their claim that the government has failed at its most basic job. And this quote, this is where they really lay out their justification for doing something so radical. By echoing language from historical documents, they're framing this whole thing not as some kind of illegal rebellion, but as them exercising a fundamental right. The message is, the system is broken and it's our right to fix it or replace it. So, once that philosophical groundwork is laid, the document dives right into the heart of its argument. A detailed list of 13 specific grievances against the Canadian government. And just to make it a bit easier to digest, we've grouped them into a few key themes for you. All right, first up, we've got grievances about the economy and how the country is run. The document alleges a whole host of problems. We're talking everything from strangling regulations and debased currency to, in their words, systemic corruption and the replacement of merit with ideology in public institutions. Okay, from there, the focus shifts to the justice system and our individual rights. The claims here are pretty serious. That the courts have become political, that free speech is being criminalized while violent defenders get a pass, and that the state has used things like digital censorship and invoking emergency powers to silence dissent. And the final set of grievances, well, these deal with what the authors see as major threats to national sovereignty, culture, and identity. Now, these are some of the most charged claims in the whole document, alleging the state has surrendered sovereignty, opened borders without consent, and is actively pursuing what it calls the demographic replacement of the descendants of Canada's European founders. So, after laying out that whole long list of problems, what's the solution? Well, the document moves to its grand finale, a formal public declaration of a brand new independent nation totally separate from the old one. And this is really the pivot point of the whole document. The tone just completely shifts from complaint to proclamation. It's that exact moment where the authors stop talking about what's wrong and start declaring what they intend to create. And boom, here it is, the absolute core of what this is all about. It's a crystal clear, no-nonsense statement that in their eyes establishes a new, sovereign country completely separate from the existing Canadian state. Now, it's really important to understand this isn't just about changing the government. This is a declaration of a complete break from the past. The document is explicit. It dissolves all allegiance to the British Crown, cutting ties with Canada's existing constitutional monarchy. So, after declaring independence, the document starts to define what this new nation is all about. And it's very specific. It explicitly links the nation's identity and its inheritance directly to its European founders, and it states that the nation is reserved for their descendants forever. This next part really drills down on that ethno-cultural identity the authors are laying out. It claims what they call an everlasting right to keep the nation's European character intact, and that applies to its peoples, its laws, its customs, and its languages.
So it doesn't just end there with the big declaration. The document closes with something more personal, a solemn promise, a pledge that its authors are making to see this through. And this final pledge really frames everything they're doing as this profound duty, a duty they feel they owe to their ancestors and to the generations that will come after them. It's a commitment to defend their declaration with everything they've got, positioning their project as a continuation of their forefathers' legacy.
So, no matter what you personally think about this document, it forces us to confront a really fundamental question. What happens when a group of people believe their nation's identity and future have diverged so completely from their vision that they feel the only option is to start over? It's a heavy question, and one that echoes far beyond the pages of this one declaration.